So, hello everyone. As Susie has just said, Susie has been part of the Business Support Network from pretty much right at the very beginning. I actually remember speaking to Susie when we were in the early kind of throes of lockdown, and said to her, "Look, I've had this idea. This is what I'm trying to achieve. What do you think? Do you fancy kind of doing some bits and pieces? Let's just see where it takes us." Do you remember that conversation,
I remember
Susie?
where it takes us 6 months later.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah,
And
it's a journey, hasn't
um,
it?
and Susie very kindly, very kindly said, "Look, I'm really up for getting involved. It
Mm.
sounds like a great idea." And she has been a kind of stable of what we've been trying to achieve. And I think that when I think back to what I was looking to do with the network, it was about bringing people together, bringing together a community that kind of really help each other and support people and come together and share ideas and different bits and pieces. And Susie is the complete embodiment of what we're trying to achieve. There's a couple of people who are new to this. There's a couple of people that have been here right from day one. And the ones that have been here right from day one, kind of, will remember the times where we had like 100 and so people in the chat, all chatted together and what have you, when none of us had anything to do apart from kind of sit there and stress out about what was going on in the world. And Susie's weekly kind of reminders that things will be okay is something that we all really look forward to. So I will say it again at the end, but I've got to say thank you so much for the time, the energy, the effort, the preparation, the content that you put into this. Susie, you've been incredible. Thank you so much. This is Susie's last live webinar for a while. It's not a goodbye in any stretch of the imagination. Susie's now so busy and so popular, she hasn't got time for us anymore.
Oh, you're going to make my head explode.
So that is an amazing thing, that Susie has just kind of got to the point where she's kind of too busy to kind of do these things. So it's wonderful that there's been a platform that everybody can grow and flourish and everything else. So as always, it's not about me at all. It's all about Susie. So I just wanted to kind of have that little extra intro today, Susie. So thank you so much for everything. We're looking forward to hearing all about perfectionism and kind of letting go of that belief. So over to you, Susie.
Thank you. The only reason I come to these webinars is so that I can hear Paul's amazing introduction. No, I'm joking. So welcome everyone. I've just popped in the chat. It's okay not to not be okay, because I think sometimes we, something you said, Paul, reminded me of that. We don't need to be okay all the time. It's okay to be just not okay. But just a little bit of introduction to me. For those of you who don't know me, I know that we've got some familiar faces here. So hi, and hi to those that are new. And thank you to everyone that's popped in the chat box. So basically, my background is that I was an assistant for 22 years in corporate London. I had my different challenges, such as redundancies, etc. And in 17, I decided to go it alone, build my business, and did it in a rather interesting way via an accident and didn't go back to corporate. And I now work as a business and mindset coach for executive assistants who want to build their virtual assistant business. And effectively, I help them with the how of getting clients. But often when I work with my clients, we go so much deeper than just the how. We work on their confidence, their self-belief, and so much more. And I just have to share this today because it absolutely made my day. I heard a message from one of my clients in our private Slack channel today to say she signed up the second client, her second VA client in her new business, and we're only 2.5 weeks into her program, and she's hit her goal of 2 clients in September. So incredibly proud of my clients and all that they do. And I just love being able to serve them. So that's a bit about me, but it's not about me, it's about you, and I'm here to support you. So today's talk is how to let go of perfectionism and still get the results. So firstly, I just want to share with you that I'm a recovering perfectionist. Definitely so much more in my teens, in my 20s. And when I was an assistant, I felt that everything had to be perfect, and I would endlessly tweak my work, and I just still wouldn't be happy with the outcome. But the thing is, perfect and perfectionism, it doesn't exist. And I want you to know, if you take away one thing today, I want you to know that we are all imperfectly perfect. We are all imperfectly perfect, just the way we are. Because what is one person's perfection is another person's imperfection. So it's about accepting ourselves for who we are and what we bring to the world, because we all have our own uniqueness that we bring to the world. And I've got a few quotes which I want to share with you today from different books that I read, as Paul knows, and the people that listen to me regularly know that I'm always recommending books. This quote is from Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, a great book, easy to read, more written like a novel. And she says, no matter how many hours you spend attempting to render something flawless, somebody will always be able to find fault with it. And I love that, because it just shows that you don't need to be perfect, that perfect isn't going to match someone else's expectation of what is perfect. Also, what I want to talk about is done is better than perfect, because when we get trapped in that cycle of perfectionism, like I must tweak it, I must add something to it, I need to improve this, I need to improve that, we don't actually move forward in our career, our life, our business. We stay stuck. So if you want to truly move forward with your dreams, and I know that you do, then you need to let go of that perfectionism badge of honor and just put yourself out there and just trust. And that can be a really scary thing to do. Again, another book recommendation coming up. There's a book called Trust by Alana Van Zant. I can't pronounce her first name properly. If you type Trust and Van Zant into Amazon, you'll see it's a gold book. Highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. Now, it's more common for women to brag about being perfect, but I want you to know that trait of being or wanting to be perfect, it can cause us not to move forward, as I said. And there was an example a little while back where someone put a CV online and she spotted a mistake, tiny little mistake, after she sent it, and she put in capitals, I need to be perfect. And I understand where she was coming from, but I could also feel the immense pressure she was putting herself under. Look, we are all imperfectly perfect. In fact, perfectionism can be the enemy of progress, and it's effectively our inner critic, our mind monkey, that internal voice in our head that is just keeping us small. Would love your reading list. I did put a list out a little while on LinkedIn in the group, but I'll pop some details in there a bit later. Okay, so we're all imperfectly perfect. The fact of the matter is that people aren't looking for perfect. Employers aren't looking for perfect. Your partner isn't looking for perfect. You know, Paul isn't looking for perfect for me. I mean, I hope he's not, because he's not going to get it. You know, we're all, you know, imperfectly perfect. But people will relate to you more, you know, as a human, on a human level, if you show your flaws and imperfections. You can own them. You can put your hand up and say, I made a mistake. That's absolutely fine. I'm not saying, you know, don't have high standards, and we'll move on to that in a moment. But just connect with someone on a human level. Make a mistake, fine, own it, learn from it, move on. And we can relate to people better when we, you know, are in that mindset, that headspace. I know I could have spent more time perfecting my presentations with Paul, and I generally tend to just speak and talk to you and don't have slides. Occasionally I do if I feel like being fancy, but I know that I could spend hours putting this content together for you, trying to make it the best version that I could for you, and still someone won't be happy. Think about book reviews on Amazon, right? Think about how many books are out there on Amazon, and someone's put their heart and soul into writing a book, and they're like, oh, it's perfect, it's great, and then someone's written a really bad review. You cannot please everyone. So stop trying to please everyone. Focus on yourself and focus on pleasing yourself, okay? So, choose to strive for your best instead of analysing and stressing over getting everything perfect, and just choose to enjoy the process. I have been guilty of getting caught up in focusing on the outcome and not actually kind of being present and being able to enjoy the process that's got me to the end result. You know, it's important to have the high standards, but there's a difference between high standards and perfectionism. And I'd like you to aim for the former, high standards. Okay. And I'm going to break down and explain a little bit more about the difference between perfectionism and high standards. So perfectionism is effectively working really, really hard, not giving yourself breaks, aiming to be perfect, putting yourself under lots of pressure, and still not feeling happy with the end result. So does that sound familiar to anyone? Has anyone ever done that? I will put my hand up to that. It's still not good enough, but I have to submit it. I have to send it, whatever it is that I've been working on. High standards is slightly different. It's where you strive for your best, not perfect, but your best, and accept and know that you and the work you deliver is enough, that you are enough, okay? And another great quote, this time from the lovely lady, Brené Brown. I've only read one of her books, but I understand that she has some amazing books out there. So if you're a reader like me, go check her out. And she says perfection is not about healthy achievement and growth. Perfectionism is not the same as striving to be your best. So understand the difference between striving to be your best, high standards, and that need to be perfect. And just share a little story with you. When I was younger, I was late for my GCSE exam, and I thought it was in the afternoon and it was in the morning, and I was half an hour late. And in my panic as this 16-year-old, I ended up writing 3 essays in the exam instead of 2, and I didn't get a great grade. So years later, I decided to retake the history GCSE. I felt that something was missing in my life. I needed to retake it, and nothing was missing in my life. But I remember working really hard on it, writing about the local history in my hometown of St Albans, and really, really enjoying it. And I remember I got an A for one paper and a B for another paper. My overall grade was B. And I remember feeling like so critical of myself. I was having a conversation with my friend about how I could have done better, how I should have got the A. And it's effectively a form of self-bullying. And I didn't accept that I just did my best. So that is an example of striving for perfectionism. Can you list the titles of the book somewhere? I'll pop it into the Business Support Network group, Amanda, so that you can access them there. Otherwise I get caught up in the chat and then I lose track of what I'm saying. Another quote from Elizabeth Gilbert, underneath that shiny veneer, perfectionism is nothing more than a deep existential angst that says again and again, I am not good enough and I will never be good enough. That just honestly just brings tears to my eye. It's such a powerful quote, because when we are striving for perfectionism, we don't accept what we have to offer the world. We feel like it's not enough, that we're not enough, that we have to go that next level higher, but we don't. But when we do keep pushing ourselves, we put ourselves under pressure to be perfect. And of course, this can affect us on an emotional and a mental well-being. This can result in fight and flight, which results in stress, sweaty palms, tense muscles, increased heart rate, racing thoughts, your thoughts that go round and round in a loop. So I'll pop these in the chat, but I want to ask you some questions, like how is perfectionism hurting you? Okay, how is perfectionism hurting you? And how could perfectionism stop you from achieving your goals? How could perfectionism stop you from achieving your goals? And these are great questions to journal if journaling is something you do. These are great questions to journal and really dig deep and figure out, like, where is this showing up in your life, and how can you take a different perspective? How can you do things differently? And then the last question is, how would your life transform if you adopted the approach that done is better than perfect? So I've just popped those questions in the chat. How would your life transform if you adopted the approach done is better than perfect? Because sometimes we get so attached to that outcome that we desire, we bully ourselves through the process. We work harder and harder. We don't take those breaks. and we're so focused on the future outcome that we're not in the present moment. We are running off adrenaline, putting ourselves under a lot of pressure, which creates stress and anxiety. We're effectively trying to meet unrealistic deadlines, and it affects our productivity and just increases our stress overall. Okay. So when you do something like this, we need to give our brain, our mind, a chance to recharge, because the brain is a muscle, just like all the other muscles in our body. And when you're working and pushing and striving for perfectionism, that brain needs some time to recharge. And if you're not recharging, if you're not sleeping properly, etc., then it will take its toll on you. You'll feel tired, you're lacking energy, you'll need afternoon naps, you'll fall asleep on the train home, or on your lunch break. You'll feel exhausted. So effectively, if you're running off adrenaline, if you're running on adrenaline and you don't get the exact result that you want, you'll start to feel disappointed in yourself. Again, that kind of form of self-bullying. And what you're doing is you're teaching your neural pathway the process that adrenaline plus exhaustion equals disappointment, okay? But we don't want to teach our mind this, okay? So I want to share something that my coach taught me called subjective insertion, but I also just want to check in, does this make sense to everyone? Does anyone have any questions or thoughts? Is it useful? Just let me know what your thoughts are. I'll come back to the comments because otherwise I'll just lose track. I'll just check those at the end. So effectively, subjective insertion is inserting subjective thoughts. So this is an example. If I said to myself, this is hard, but it's leading to a bigger purpose than me, that last bit after the but is a subjective insertion. So it's like putting also almost a positive spin onto a statement. So if I said to myself, I haven't hit my goal for my client intake this month, but I know that I will, and I'm doing everything I can to make that happen, that's my subjective insertion. So it's just adding on that little bit more extra into the sentence and adding in that positive. And what happens is every time you add in these subjective insertions, you get a dopamine hit, which is like the happy chemical, and you feel more energized, you feel more productive, and you feel happier. And who doesn't want to feel like that, right? So bringing yourself back to the present moment is really important, okay? And bringing yourself back and being grateful for what you're experiencing and what you're able to enjoy from the process, then that helps. As I say, again, it brings in that dopamine, it fires off dopamine, and that produces chemicals, which it changes the chemical reaction in your body, and it produces a new emotion. So happiness, joy, fun, whatever it may be, but it takes you out of that negative state. So whatever the result is, whatever the result that you're looking for, be mindful of what is it going to teach you. And if you didn't get the result you wanted, if it didn't work out exactly as you would have liked it to, that's okay. You're perfectly imperfect. So just ask yourself, what can I do better next time? Or what can I do different next time to actually enjoy the process? Because the fact of the matter is, when you focus on the process and not the outcome, you get better results. Because when we're focused on the outcome, we're not in the present moment, we're not focused, we're not clear. Our mind is in what's called the future library, as my coach refers to it as. So you want to be in the present moment, you want to be clear, you want to be focused. But when you're constantly striving for perfectionism, you're focusing on the end goal, and you're constantly in a future point in your life, which hasn't happened yet, and you can't control that. So come back to the present moment and teach yourself and your neural pathway the new behavior of gratitude, being grateful and being in that present moment, plus dopamine that comes from that, equals better results, increased productivity, better work, etc. So allow yourself to put more effort into the process, because that will get you better results without all of those feelings of stress, overwhelm, anxiety around the need to be perfect, which doesn't exist anyway. So stop judging yourself, okay? or others on not being perfect. Love yourself and love others unconditionally. Because I tell you now, you are enough. And you are enough just the way you are. Perfect. That is you're perfectly imperfect. So don't change a thing, okay? But often we judge ourselves more harshly than we judge other people. My final quote, and this is one of my favorites from Elizabeth Gilbert again. And I'll pop this into either the comments in a moment or into the group so you can check them out later, because I want to be conscious of everyone's time. So we all spend our 20s and 30s trying so hard to be perfect, because we're so worried about what other people will think of us. Then we get into our 40s and 50s and we finally start to be free, because we decide that we don't give a damn what anyone else thinks about us. But you won't be completely free, because until you reach your 60s and your 70s, when you finally realize that liberating truth that nobody was ever thinking about you anyhow. And that was I just love that, because I thought, you know what, we have such a strive and a need to be perfect. No one's looking for perfectionism in you. Like, you're looking for perfectionism in yourself. Perfectionism is about pleasing others, making others happy, because when you think you make others happy, you make yourself happy. But start with yourself. As I said, you are enough, you know enough, you're good enough to achieve anything in life. Like, we all start in this world the same way. We may have different opportunities, but there's people out in the world like Oprah Winfrey, Tony Robbins, so have come from really, really difficult backgrounds, like really difficult if you know their stories. But they have achieved so much, okay? Anything is possible for you, but be kind to yourself and know that you don't have to be perfect to be worthy. Your worth is completely separate from how worthy you might see yourself. I'm going to repeat that again, because I think it's really, really important that this hits home with you. And know that you don't have to be perfect to be worthy. Your worth is completely separate from how worthy you might see yourself. So that kind of just brings me to the end of today's talk. I hope you found it useful. Please let me know what you thought in the chat box. I'm also going to pop in a couple of links. So as you know, I'm a business and mindset coach, so I've got a link to my business newsletter. It's called the Business Kickstarter, and I also have, oh no, not that one, you don't need that. Well, that's if you want to, that's the wrong one. Just realised I can, hold on a sec, let me find it. The other thing is I have a freebie called 5 Things You Need to Know Before You Quit the 9 to 5. If that's something people are looking for, then you can download that. The other link was for booking a call with me to find out more about working with me. But of course, if that's what you want to do, then click on that too. But that brings me to the end of perfectionism. So let me just quickly go through the comments. So Sham said, it's affected by time management. I will take on more projects, more learning and more development. Totally agree. It's about the journey. I'm really sorry if one had to have to, okay, so Emily had to go. Robbing me of time I can use for something essential in my life. A recent supervisor had a high standard attitude and taught me to let go of perfectionism, and it's a great feeling. Thank you for answering in that format. Fantastic. I think I've answered all your questions. I'm going to pass back over to Paul now, because I've done all my talking.
Hello.
Hi.
Well, I mean, as always, it's fantastic. It's lovely to see the comments coming through about the positivity. Loved it and what have you. So thanks for all the kind comments. Has anybody got any questions that they would like to ask Suzie on this topic? Has anyone got anything that they would like to ask? As always, feel free to come on camera and come off mute. I know that not many people would like to kind of go down that road, but a lot of people who kind of tune into these regularly know that Suzie and I kind of follow the same types of people and kind of think think along the same lines to a lot of things. And the thing that really resonates with me about what Suzie has just said, and it's something that I say all the time to my team at our recruitment agency, is about the process and going through the process and trusting that process. And as long as you follow that, then things kind of fit into place, and it gives yourself the best chance of doing performing to your best, basically. And that's something that I've studied a hell of a lot, and I know that every professional sports man and woman kind of follows that exact same mindset to follow the process, basically.
Absolutely. I just wanted to check in with Amanda to see how I might be able to support her. She wrote, loved it. I actually found it hit a raw nerve quite a bit. And yes, I guess it can, you know, and I want to make sure that you feel supported in our time together, Amanda. So is there anything you'd like to share, either off camera or in the chat, in terms of how I might be able to support you with that? Because I don't want you going away feeling like I've opened you up and you've got no support. So if you'd like some support, either pop in here or just drop me a message on LinkedIn. I'll be happy to support you. But yeah, I just want everyone to know that I think sometimes, like, you know, saying something like "you are enough," sometimes people haven't heard that or had no one's ever said that to them before. So that in itself can be quite triggering because it's new. It's kind of new programming, effectively. But if there's any way I can support you, Amanda, either on here or just drop me a DM on LinkedIn, and I'll be happy to support you.
Thank you. Just one quick question though, because you know, I found what you've said all makes perfect sense, but actually I've been a perfectionist all my life, from as long as I can remember. And I think it's one of my traits. You know, they say that I'm a Virgo, and they say a Virgo woman is a perfectionist. I've got OCD terrible, to the extent where if I do something and I don't do it to what I call my standard and it's perfect, I start it all over again. And I find that does kind of hinder me in a lot of respects. And then I beat myself up that I'm not good enough and I can't do it because of that. But is it something that you can teach somebody to change their mindset? Because it does seem to be a trait of my personality more than anything else.
Yeah, absolutely, Amanda. And so what I do with my clients is I coach them. So I often like ask those open questions that allow them to think in a different way. And, you know, we're programmed from childhood, Amanda, from the things that we learn and the things that we're taught around us from our peers, from our elders, our parents, our teachers. So if you've been labeling yourself for all of these years that you're a perfectionist, then that's the pattern and the program that you'll continue to run. But yes, you can address that mindset. It takes a bit of work, but definitely, you know, you can address that mindset. It's just a belief. And you're labeling yourself saying I'm a perfectionist, but you can change your thinking, your mindset, how you show up in the world. And as I always say, like, everything starts with our thoughts. So what we think affects how we feel affects how we act, and how we act affects our outcome. Like what you're saying here, you think you need to be perfect, you think you're a perfectionist, and that's the language you're using. And then you feel a certain way, you act a certain way, and the outcome is the result. But absolutely, you know, it is just internal programming from our childhood. We all have beliefs and patterns as well, but absolutely they can be, you know, we can change them. We can. It's just mindset. I hope that helped.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Amanda. So welcome.
I second what Susie's just said there, actually, Amanda, that I think that Susie's perhaps a little bit more qualified than I am in this sense, but I have, over the last 6 months, I've started training myself in terms of life coaching and NLP coaching and what have you. And there are kind of hundreds and thousands of studies that have kind of clinically said that everyone is born on earth in kind of completely equal. We can't walk, we can't talk, we can't kind of think to ourselves, you know, right from that point. And the belief systems that we build up is a kind of combination of messages that we've had from parents, grandparents, friends over and over across the years, which can be kind of restructured and channeled into different directions. So I think that changes can be made, and kind of made them kind of point them in a kind of slightly different direction.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I was just reading Vera's post, where's it gone, about perfection. Yeah, is often driven by other people's expectations. Absolutely is. And like, if we think about our early childhood years, expectations from teachers, expectations from parents, and we've constantly got that pressure on ourselves. And depending on your personality, you might be harder on yourself than others maybe, but there is that external expectation, and that's when you need to go inside and kind of readjust the compass and set your own expectations. And I have a post that goes out occasionally which talks about, you know, are you meeting expectations of yourself, or are you meeting expectations of your employer? You know, are they aligned? So yeah, expectations is definitely a big thing.
Definitely. Well, thank you for everyone's thanks for everyone's comments there, and especially to Amanda coming on board on a public forum, and you know, and kind of stating that takes some doing. So well done to you, Amanda, and to open up like that. As I said at the beginning, Suzie, thank you so much for everything, for today, for the last 6 months. The success of the network has been built around various people, and you are right up there in the kind of, you know, right at the forefront of that. So I can't thank you enough personally for the support and preparation and everything that you've done week in, week out. Not for me, but for the community, because that's what this is all about. So thank you so much. We will be seeing Suzie lots more over the coming months, when you know, our website is actually finally launching next week after our big event tomorrow, which is the Virtual Assistant Startup Guide. We still have very few tickets available. I've just popped a link in, so if anyone wants to join us, that would be great. Suzie is one of our special guests. So she's talking about the virtual assistant business owner mindset. So come and catch us tomorrow night. But if everybody is kind of done and what have you, Suzie, thank you so much.
Okay, on the subject of thank yous, firstly, I'd just like to thank everyone that shows up you know, whenever they show up. Some people have been showing up most weeks, some people are new, but I just want to say I appreciate you, I see you, I hear you. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to hear me speak, and I'm glad that you've enjoyed it. If you want to know more about what I do, then obviously put my message. But most of all, just thank you for everyone that showed up. But the biggest thank you goes to Paul for making this happen. I know he doesn't like to be in the limelight, but just like, we're just going to hold it over his head like a halo for a few seconds. Just go with it, Paul. And I want to thank Paul, because if it wasn't for Paul reaching out to me and doing all the hard work behind the scenes, and trust me, there's a lot of hard work that goes in, you know, if it wasn't for Paul, I wouldn't be here today sharing what I'm sharing. I wouldn't be inspiring and empowering assistants sometimes around the world, because we have people from abroad. So can we put our hands together and give a little reaction clap to Paul? You click on the bottom, it says reactions on the bottom right. If you click there, it gives a clap. Thank you, Paul, for so much for making this happen and bringing this all together. Right, that's it. I finished embarrassing Paul. Thank you, everyone. Love to you all. Take care. Awesome duo. Yeah. I finished, Paul.
Thanks, Suzie, and thank you so much, everyone. What can I say? Thank you. I really, really appreciate it.
Welcome.
Enjoy the rest of your day, guys.
Take care, everyone. Bye. Cheers. For now. See you soon.